I decided to experiment a lot with a lot of different strategies. Some worked, some didn't. But we increased our revenue by $1 million because I was willing to take a risk. If you're one of those people, I'm just going to keep doing what I've always been doing because it's worked in the past, you will get stuck. There is no doubt in my mind.
This woman that you're about to listen to definitely plays bigger and has helped me play bigger without even knowing it until I met her in person at an event a couple of months ago. I remember fangirling about this woman because in 2020, some of you guys know that I was pivoting and trying to figure out this online marketing world. I've only known brick and mortar and how to figure out how to brand online. And is this really a thing? And this woman that you're about to listen to, opened up my eyes to online marketing, to building a brand online, to this whole email list, and expanded my mind that I didn't even know existed. And I know majority of our audience are entrepreneurs, with a large portion of them in real estate. And we're figuring out, how do we brand ourselves online? How do we attract the right clients? And well, today, I have one of the best in the world when it comes to online marketing. She is a top-rated podcast host that is Online Marketing Made Easy. And she's worked with mega brands like Harley-Davidson and Tony Robbins and has some exciting things and a lot of wisdom to share. Welcome to the show, Amy Porterfield.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to see you again. I love that we got to meet in person, and I loved your story. It was so wild, and the fact that I was even a small part of that was incredible. But I really appreciate you having me, so thanks again.
Oh my gosh, I appreciate having you here. And for those that don't know you, I'm going to dive right in. What is it that you do? How do you help people so that our audience can get a taste of who you are?
So I always say I'm an ex-corporate girl turned accidental entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is I have always been in the 9-to-5, always been in corporate. Like you said, I worked for Harley-Davidson and then Tony Robbins. And my last corporate job was with Tony. I was the director of content development. I got to travel the world with Tony and work on the content that he does on stage, like Unleash the Power Within, Date with Destiny. I got to work on that content. And I loved what I did. I got paid well. I liked having a corporate job, a regular paycheck, health insurance, paid vacation. I liked knowing what I was doing and having a team. However, there was a moment about 6 years in working for Tony Robbins that I found myself in a meeting with other online business owners. And they were all guys. I didn't see any women at the time, but Tony was asking them about their businesses. They had digital courses and memberships and masterminds. Some were in real estate, relationship building, investing, all different industries, but they were all doing business online, all their own bosses. And in that moment, I was called into the meeting, so humbling, to take notes. I wasn't even invited to the main table, but there I was taking notes, and all I heard was freedom. These guys were calling the shots. They were their own bosses. They were making the kind of money they wanted to make. They had creative freedom. And I thought, I don't know what they're doing, but I have never felt that free, and I've got to figure it out. So that was a fateful meeting that a year later, I ended up leaving my final 9-to-5 job and started building my own business. So fast forward 14 years now, and now I help other people build businesses online. I've primarily focused on how to take your knowledge, know-how, and skill set and turn that into a profitable digital course. But I also teach newbie entrepreneurs how to get started, how to quit their 9-to-5 job and start an online business from scratch. And so I have a book coming out called 2 Weeks Notice, How to Find the Courage to Quit Your Job, Make More Money, Work Where You Want, and Change the World. So that's what got me to today.
Oh my gosh. And a lot of our audience can relate because a lot of them leave the 9-to-5 job for the freedom to make as much money as they want in real estate, but then they don't know how to market themselves because those are not the skill sets that you learn when you are at a company or at a job, not always. So they have to figure it all out. So how have you seen this online marketing change over the years? You said 14 years, and I know it's probably going to continue to change. How have you seen it change over the years, and how do you stay relevant or separate yourself from everybody else?
Yeah. So much has changed in the online landscape over the last 14 years. You are right about that. And what I was doing 14 years ago, funny enough, I still do some of those core strategies. I think there are tried and true marketing strategies that stand the test of time. And I'll tell you specifically what they are: webinars, email marketing, and I would say social media now. Those have been constants since the day I started my online business until today. The number one asset in my business today is my email list. Without it, I would not have a multi-million-dollar business. And so those things have actually been very constant. Again, email marketing, webinars, and social media, constant throughout the last 14 years. However, the way we market, how we show up, the fact that in the beginning, I didn't do nearly as much video as I do today. I probably am on video 5 hours a day, most days a week, doing different things, or podcasting or video or anything like that, where back in the day, that was not a thing. Where people will ask me now, do I have to get on video to grow my business? And I'll say, I really do believe you do. I think you need to show your face, your personality. And this is coming from a girl that would love video to go away. I'm not a huge fan of always having to be on video, but I know that I'm also competitive, and I don't want anybody else to take this space. I want to hold this space, so I'm going to do the things that make me uncomfortable. But definitely video has been a big shift over the years. It has been a constant over the last few years, and it is absolutely essential. And I think the way we use social media has changed dramatically. The way I used it 14 years ago is very different than today. Today, it's more taking people behind the scenes, being more real and transparent about what's going on and how I do what I do. And I also think things like TikTok and Instagram Reels and different features of these platforms have really taken off. And I think it's important that we pay attention to what's working now, because in a year, I can promise you will be dramatically different. So I think things changing so fast, that is still very prevalent.
How does somebody keep up with the trends? And you said a lot of gold in that too, because I was just on a mastermind call with our members, and we didn't have to learn social media to sell houses. Now we actually have to be on video and have lighting, or have be transparent about what we're doing. So marketing has totally changed. So how do you keep up with the trends of what's happening? Or are you just testing things as it works?
That's a great question. There's a lot of testing for sure, but even before the testing happens, I do make sure that I am paying attention to all these different things, meaning I don't let it take over my day. I would never make money if I was trying to learn TikTok all day or whatever it might be. But I do carve out some hours every week to allow myself to spend some time on social, to read the different blogs and listen to the specific podcasts around marketing, to know really what is working for people. There are so many amazing podcasts out there that teach you. I have one, Online Marketing Made Easy, that teach you what's working now. I just did a podcast the other day, and I broke down exactly how to do a paid boot camp so that you get people into your world that have a common interest. For 4 or 5 days, you teach them something that they want to know, and then you can upsell them into something bigger. Now, I know there's a lot of real estate professionals listening right now thinking, how might that work for me? And that's a great question. It might not work, but it could spark something else that's ooh, but yeah, that won't work, but I could try something like this. So another way I stay in the trend is I listen to other people's strategies that have nothing to do with my industry. And I think, how could I tweak that to make it work for mine? And to get back to your point, experimenting every single day. Last year in 2021 was one of the years that I went behind in revenue, which, let me tell you, to even tell you that hits my soul to the deepest level, because I had never actually gone backwards in revenue. But 2021 I did. And I looked around and I thought, I know why that happened. I was not experimenting with new things at all. I was doing what has always worked, and what has always worked wasn't working as well. In a post-COVID world, things have changed online. And so 2022, I decided to experiment a lot with a lot of different strategies. Some worked, some didn't. But we increased our revenue by $1 million because I was willing to take a risk. So I think it's so important that If you're one of those people, and you're not because you're listening to this podcast, but if you're like, I'm just going to keep doing what I've always been doing because it's worked in the past, you will get stuck. There is no doubt in my mind. But I don't think that's the audience listening here because they're looking for new ideas, which is great.
Oh my gosh, speaking of new ideas, you said one thing earlier that's a staple, and it's one way that I found you is this email list. How important is it to build an email list, and why email list when there's all these different platforms? Because that is something that you teach a lot of people.
Okay, let's talk about this. My very favorite topic. It's like I got to get on a soapbox, but I'll be careful not to go too long. So first, let's start out with the idea that an email list, names and emails, of course, is a huge important asset in your business. And here's why. If you bank on social media, real estate agents and professionals in that industry, like you said, they didn't start out by using social media to have to sell homes. But today, it is essential. But if you think it's so essential that that's all you're doing and you're building your business via social media, you are building your business on rented land. At any time, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk of Twitter could literally change the algorithm, and boom, how you were marketing will change forever. And now you got to figure out and scramble what to do. When you have an email list, you own that email list. You control it. Nobody can penetrate it. Meaning at any given time, if you create a great relationship with those people on the email list, you can tell them about what you've got and make your offers, and you can make money. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Last year, Facebook and Instagram went down, absolutely black. You remember that day?
Oh, yeah.
Wild. It felt like the world had ended. Like, is anyone out there?
Yeah.
It was so bizarre. So that day, if my business was dependent on social media, I would not have made money that day. However, coincidentally, I'd sent out an email to a very small segment of my email list and told them about a product that I had had for years, but reminding them, hey, I know you don't have this product. I want to put it in front of you if you're curious. And we made about $6,000, $7,000 in a few hours, just like that, more by the end of the day, by actually using my email list when social media was totally black. That's the power of email marketing. You can make money with it any day of the week. It doesn't work as well for social media. Social media is a great way to grow that email list, but an email list will convert 4 times higher than any social media post. So it's essential, especially in real estate, essential you have an email list.
Oh my gosh, so good, so much gold. And if somebody doesn't have an email list, what would you say, or if somebody doesn't have they have all these followers, what would be some of the best strategies that you could do to actually create that or to start?
Yes, I love this question. So the first thing is you want to get an email service provider. The great news is you can start out with one that's free in the beginning. So ConvertKit is one of my favorites. I'm sure you've got a few favorites as well. And you can just start out with a simple email service provider, which is essential. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to create a lead magnet. You're going to create some kind of valuable freebie. I'm curious, what was your freebie? This is a great example.
Yeah, how to scale your business to 7 figures.
There you go. How to scale your business 7 figures. Was it a PDF?
PDF.
Perfect. Okay, PDFs are the perfect way to get started. A guide, a cheat sheet, a checklist, a blueprint. You put it together. You make it so good that people are like, holy cow, I would have paid for this. This is that good. And so it's irresistible to them. And so you put it out there on a page that just says all about what it is. Keep it really simple. You collect their name and email in exchange for this PDF. And that is actually how you're going to get started growing your email list. You're going to at least once a week talk about your freebie. You're going to put it in the bio of all your social media. Anytime you get interviewed on any kind of media, you're going to mention, hey, did you know I've got this free guide to do XYZ? Go here to check it out. Everywhere where you are mentioning this on a regular basis. You can't just create it and think people will come to it. The magic is actually talking about it, but that's exactly how you get started.
Oh my gosh. I'm smiling because I was thinking about reading your course, and when you told me what to do, and I'm like, it brought me back to that PDF. Then we got them into a challenge. I'm like, that's all Amy Porterfield.
Yes, the challenge is brilliant. What you've done, one thing that's unique about you that I can't necessarily say this about all my students is you do the work. You show up. You bought my course and you said, I'm going to be a STAR student. I'm going to get this done. and you do it. And I'm guessing you attract a lot of people like you. That's very normal. Go-getters that will do the work. And I love to see what your business has done. It's been incredible.
It was the one time that we did that in the pandemic. It's like, it was a very first challenge. We made over 6. We were like, what? How in the world did that happen? It's following the process of somebody that has already done it.
Okay, I love that you said that. When I worked for Tony Robbins, one of the things, like I took so many gems away from that last position, but one of the things I really bank on is anything you want to do in your business, anything, find someone who's gone before you, who's willing to teach you how they did it. And that's exactly what you did and what so many other people listening can do. Because here's the real truth, and I want to kind of give people some grace that are listening that feel as though like, it's not clicking. I don't get it. This is very overwhelming. I didn't grow up with this stuff. It's foreign to me. That is normal. We don't learn this stuff in school, and everyone starts from scratch. And so don't expect that it should come easy to you, or you should know about funnels, webinars, email marketing. We don't learn that. And so give yourself grace and time to learn it, because I too was in the same spot where I had to start from zero.
Oh my gosh. And so speaking of the ones, you gave us some strategies on building an email list. Now, for those that have an email list, is there a science, because you're not face to face, it is all email, of keeping your email community engaged? Because we get 1,000 emails all the time. So what makes our email so much more special? Is there some type of science to that?
There is, in the sense that number one, consistency. And so when I say this, some people kind of like, what? You want to email at least once a week. Now, I don't think you need to email more than once a week, but once a week. And the first question I get when I tell people that is, what the heck am I emailing them? And I think that's a really great question. So let's talk for a minute about content creation. Content is queen. I think it's essential in any industry you're in. And when I talk about content to my students, I'm talking about a blog post or a podcast episode or a video, or maybe a live Q&A that you do on Instagram or whatever it might be. But every week you are putting out new original content. And so when you do that, let's say you start a podcast like you did. Every, let's say Thursday, you send an email to your entire list, whether you have 10 people on or 10,000, it doesn't matter. You're sending an email and you're letting them know, I have a new podcast this week. Here's what it's about. Click here to go listen. So they're clicking in the email. They're going to your podcast page to listen to that specific episode. Now, in addition to that, what makes email marketing work is you've got to be conversational. You are always writing to just one person. Kind of get an idea of who they are in your head. Give them a name, give them a persona. All right, I'm sitting down, I'm writing to Cindy today. I'm going to let her know what she needs to know. I'm going to help her out. And you write like you're writing to a friend. You can include GIFs or memes or funny jokes in there, whatever your personality is, really let it come out. And the last thing they want is a stuffy email from a real estate agent. Like, that's not what they want. Who wants that, right? We want it to be entertaining or inspiring or informational, whatever it might be, but in your personality. Another thing to pay close attention to is that subject line, because there's two things we track: open rate of the email and click-through rate. Open rates, just in case anyone's wondering, average is around 20%. If you're getting a 20% open rate, you're doing well. So if you get anything more than that, you're doing exceptional. So subject lines are important. So the next time you're in your inbox, check out the subject lines that you gravitate toward. What are you opening up? And keep a little file of subject lines you love so you can model those and kind of use them in your own way later on when you're ready. The other thing that you're monitoring is click-through rate. You want people to actually click a link in your email. Now here's something kind of sobering. 2 to 4% is the average click-through rate. I know that's really low, but let's say you're sending out an email saying, I've got a new podcast today, go listen. They might not click the link in the email because they might just grab their iPhone and go into their app and say, oh yeah, I remember I got to listen. I got an email this morning, and they'll listen. That email, even though the click-through rates are low, is still essential. I have over 45 million downloads on my podcast. That would never be the case if I didn't email once a week to my entire list.
Oh my gosh, you have given us so much wisdom. And now I want to hear about the flip side, because this is online marketing queen, is like, what has been one of the biggest mistakes or failures you've made in marketing? Like, this is the juicy stuff.
Yes, I have made so many mistakes along the way. Okay, let me just think of, well, in the very beginning, I made silly mistakes. Like I did a webinar and I forgot to even put the link to where people should go buy. So at the end of my webinar, people were watching. They had no idea what to do at the end. I'm like, go buy my product. Where? What? There's no link. Like I had no clue. It's that silly stuff. And the reason I bring this one up first is to say, we all are going to make mistakes like that in the beginning. You have to give yourself grace that we have to stumble through this no matter how well-versed you think you are, ready to start. You're going to make silly mistakes like forgetting a link and no one even knowing where to go. But I think in general, number one, getting back to the email, I did not email my list every single week. And it was months before I would email again. And when I wanted to really start marketing and making offers, it was like crickets. I had 600 people on my email list, but nobody was paying attention because they heard from me maybe once a month randomly. They didn't even know when they would hear from me. So that once a week, same day, same time, every day, that's what I do now, but I did not do in the beginning. Another big mistake I made in marketing was I waited to start my email list. So I told all of you the value of an email list. They know from you that an email list has really changed your business, but most people listening right now will not get started with an email list. And in a year from now, they're going to think of this conversation and think, why didn't I get started earlier? It's one of the biggest regrets that I have in my business because I did it as well. And so I promise you, everything is easier in your business when you have an email list. I have no doubt in my mind. So not starting your email list earlier, you don't need to sell them anything. We're just creating relationship in the beginning. And if you don't have a blog or a podcast or a video show, just add value to your email list every single week. Tell them stories, give them examples, give them what they want. It doesn't need to be long. It just needs to be memorable. And so that's another mistake. And then overall, one more mistake I made along the way is that I waited a long time to get support. And I think I wore a badge of honor, like I'm a one-woman show, watch me go kind of thing. And then I got so overwhelmed and frustrated and resentful of like, this is entrepreneurship that I might as well go back to my 9-to-5 job. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. So even bringing in a virtual assistant to help you or your first part-time project manager or marketing manager makes a huge difference. So hire even before you think you're ready.
What would you say would be one of your most key important roles that for sure now you could not live without?
My marketing project manager was the first full-time hire I ever made. Before then, I had like freelancers, contractors. She was the first full-time employee, and she dramatically helped me change my business because when someone is solely focused on your online marketing, well, you're also focused on it, but you're doing so many other things. And a lot of times you're the face of the business. You're meeting with clients, you're making deals. So there's no way you can give a full focus to marketing. But imagine if even just one person, that was their full focus and responsibility. My project manager was literally responsible for revenue verticals. If I didn't hit the goal, that was on her. So that took a lot of pressure off of me, but also invigorated her, got her excited. There's bonuses tied to it. She's like, let's go. So that was the best and first hire I ever made.
Oh my gosh. So looking back 14 years in, if you had to start this all over and you just wrote a book, like 2 weeks notice, I could quit tomorrow.
Yeah.
I had to start over and do it all over again. What would you do?
Oof. Okay. So if I was starting all over and I was 0 social media followers, 0 people on my email list, 0 money in the bank in terms of revenue for the business, the first thing I do is I would start to create content. And what I mean by that, again, I would start a podcast or a blog or a video show or a weekly live Q&A, and I would get myself out there every single week. In the beginning, only your mom and your best friend are watching. That's how it goes for all of us, my friends. So the people that are willing to, I've got this term, it's called capacity for zero. If you are willing to start from 0, start over, know that it's not going to look pretty in the beginning, you cannot lose. You've got to have a capacity for 0 and put that ego aside. So I would start creating content, and I would also build up at least one social channel. I wouldn't say I have to be on all of them. I'd go like all in with Instagram or all in with TikTok, and I'd figure it out. I'd become obsessed with figuring out this channel. So to me, it all starts with content. And for the record, that list building side of it, it's so much easier when you're putting out regular content and you get to mention, oh, by the way, did you get my freebie? So like on my podcast, I'll start out a podcast by saying, before I get going, did you know I've got a freebie to do XYZ? Here's the link, go get it. And now let's start our podcast every single time. And so it's essential that you weave in list building with your content creation.
So good. So we're going to talk about your book because it's coming out next month. And I'm so excited. I know we mentioned it earlier in the show. Is what inspired you to write that book? I know we talked about a meeting, but like, why now?
Yeah. So 2 Weeks Notice is the book that I wish I had 14 years ago when I went out on my own. When I went out on my own, I looked around my first day being my own boss and thinking, what have I done? I do not know. I didn't know how to create the right type of website. I sure as heck didn't know how to grow an email list. I didn't know how to make offers. I didn't know how to use social media or create content. These are all the things I go through in the book. So I wrote the book that I wish I had. The very beginning is finding the courage to put yourself out there and do something different and go after what you want. But the bulk of the book is a marketing book. It's literally step by step how I grew a multi-million-dollar business from scratch. And so a lot of people listening might have already left their 9-to-5 job and you think, I don't need a book called 2 Weeks Notice, I've already left. But have you built a solid foundation in your business that will stand the test of time in the marketing world? Likely no. That's the area that most people struggle in. So this is the guidebook to walk you through.
Well, where can people find it? Because we want to make sure, and we'll put it also in the show notes.
Thank you. It's 2weeksnoticebook.com. So if you go to 2weeksnoticebook.com, I always have special bonuses for people that pre-order the book. And the earlier you order it, the more cool bonuses you get. And for those of you who really want to up your marketing, I promise you, I am your girl. I will walk you through this. We're going to get you up and running and solid so that you can start making the kind of money you want to make.
I promise and second that this woman is your marketing girl, or else we would not be having this podcast and we would not be having this conversation. So we are definitely, as a community, going to go ahead and support her at 2weeksnotice.com.
2weeksnoticebook.com.
And we'll make sure we put that in the show notes so that you guys all can get a copy of the book.
Thanks.
So after the book, what else are you working on? And what else is Amy excited about?
You know, we are starting to expand helping people create their digital courses. So this year we're rolling out a Done With You program where I have one-on-one coaching to help people create their digital courses based on their expertise. So that's something I'm really excited about that will roll out next year. But right now, my only focus could be this book. So that's all I'm allowed to think about until it comes out February 21st, and then it's game on to the next thing.
Amazing. But before we wrap up, where can people connect with you?
So Instagram is where I'm most active on all social channels. So I'm just at Amy Porterfield, really on all social, but especially Instagram.
Okay, so make sure you connect with Amy. And if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you screenshot it and give her a shout out and give her like some thank you and some love for all the value and wisdom that she gave us today. So as we wrap up, I always ask every single guest on our show this question is, what does Amy do to play bigger in business or in life?
I get uncomfortable. The more comfortable you are, the less you will grow. So pretty much every day lately, I have been uncomfortable, and I think that's the ticket to win.
Yay! So thank you so much for being on the show, Amy. I appreciate you. Thank you for all that you've done for me, my family, my community. I wouldn't have this community had it not been stumbling across you in the pandemic. And I just so appreciate you. And I'm so grateful for you. And I cannot wait to keep playing bigger with you.
Me too, my friend. Thank you so much.